The deal with the library is, it's a school district library, so its borders follow the school district, and we give them money to cover all Lansing residents, not just those within the school district that they're a part of. And so that's what we're paying for, is to expand their services to all Lansing residents. Here we're just making sure that we're saying for the food pantry that we are paying to make sure that they service our Lansing residents. And that's why I want this to say Lansing residents in it so that it's clear. that that's what we're doing. Yeah, yeah. I'm just explaining why I think the library already is covered that way. This is covered this way. You know, it's very clear that our money to the folks that are doing the water monitoring are monitoring Salmon Creek. So again, it's services for our residents that we're paying for.
We're not disagreeing with you. We just want to have clarity, right? So let's move on. So in this sheet here that was just handed to us, there will be a projection here, these numbers. And we'll start with A, right, the general A fund. Look down below where it says minimal for the fund balance. That means 3 months, right? Because we, in our policy, it was 3 to 6 months. Okay? So that's where that number comes from, three months. And the projected shortfall is, and help me out with this, ladies, that means that 177,568.02 is that much less of the 637, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So we take that difference, and that's where that projected would be.
So we're projected to be at 460, is what you're saying?
Yes.
We're projected to be at 460, we should be at 637, and our shortfall is 177, doing the math for me so I don't have to.
For the 3 months.
Yeah.
If you want 3 months minimum.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind, that number does not indicate any other future budget mods that may have to come up next month, amongst others. This is through August 31st. And you can see the B fund is the same thing. You see where there's a bit of an overage there. That's why we're taking some money out of the B fund and reallocating the revenue for 2024 into these funds. Yes.
I'm just curious, when you have the anticipated unearned revenue and anticipated expenditures, how are you calculating the anticipated? Is that just like what's left in the budget?
Right,
or-
yes.
Okay.
Right from the budget.
That's if they spent every penny.
That's remaining budget, okay.
So under B fund, when you say optimum 298, is that still the 3-month,
No, I think that's 6 months.
That's the 6 month.
that one's 6 months,
So
okay.
optimum means 6 and minimum means 3.
Okay,
Also keep in mind that with the B fund, when you look through these numbers here on the sheet, or when you look at the supervisor's, not the supervisor's report, but the funds report that go with the supervisor's report, there is a line in there for planner that had not been spent down, so some of that estimated expenses will not be incurred. So there may be, that number may actually grow.
Well, that's why I was wondering if there were adjustments for things that you know are anomalies from what we originally budgeted.
We didn't make any of those kind of assumptions. This is based purely on the numbers that are there.
Okay.
We call this the doomsday budget. This is the worst case scenario without budget mods.
Okay.
That'll happen.
All right.
Then you see the next one under DA, where the memo is 466, and the projected is 505. And some of that will be taken care of out of the A fund, or ARPA money. ARPA money for next year.
That's next year.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into the DA eventually, what we project that fund balance to be
so
increased.
so we're saying DA is going to be run out of money to the tune of 60 grand this year?
They're gonna have to, yep. If they spend everything.
I understand, and I'm just saying this is what the projection is. Mikey, how close do you think you'll be able to come to? Because I know you can't predict the snowfalls and stuff.
Right now, that, with my funds, all the salt's in now for this year, and I wasn't using any of the ARPA money that was put in there, so, I'm okay right now.
It's that December overtime that's going to be a problem.
It might be, I can,
You can't predict, I know.
Right, I can make some changes myself, I can, I can put a little more burden on myself, to help save some money. I plan on some of that already anyhow, we're a little short due to staffing, but,
That can only go.
if it gets really bad, there's not much I can do, but I'll do my best.
I understand, and I understand you're in a position that isn't entirely of your making, and that's part of it. And I worry when you say, I'll take up the shortage, because you've got a limited amount of time you can put into this job, you have to have your own life, and you have to have the time that you recharge. And if you don't give yourself that, we don't get the full Mikey the next day. And
Well,
that's,
it's just part of the job. When I work from, 7 hours or whatever on a water main break, and I work again on a water main break from 11 at night until 6 in the morning on Sunday. Yeah, it's the job, it does take a toll, but it's okay.
you gotta have that makeup time some point. And, that's important that we have that in the budget too, that, we don't expect you to work 80 hours a week. There are weeks you will, but we don't expect that to be the regular, routine. At least I don't.
I don't either.
I don't think my wife does either, but sometimes.
I understand sometimes,
I-
when all the water mains break at once, you lose that night.
Oh, yeah.
I would hope that also applies to our rec department director and also to our planner.
That applies to everybody on staff, everybody.
Okay, I'll hold you to that. All right.
Yeah.
Now, if we move on. B. The general B. B, 3620140. As we all know, when there is a 3 letters after it, it's an expense, and when there's no letters after it, it's a revenue. Okay, so Heather Dryas will be the fully CEO, certified for 2024.
I just have a really quick question. Is that in the correct line then, since she's really no longer a trainee? Does it need to go to a different account?
Do you want to
I thought we
change the
did.
name of it?
Maybe we just changed the name. We could be, I'll have to look at it. It's gonna be easier for me to look at this.
If we don't anticipate having a new trainee, the best thing to do would probably just to be, change the wording of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a placeholder more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. B, 8010400, increased budget line for new code books, open gov software, training costs. Okay, let's go on to the next page. B, 8020400, increased budget line for open gov software, training costs. So the open gov, I think it's a $30,000 bill. I think it's, John split up between those 2 lines. But it's like $15,000 each, plus other expenses, if my math is correct.
OpenGov is in the B line because it's all, his
Is all
department?
code? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Number 4, B 11020, revenue. Sales tax percentage has been decreased to spend on a portion of fund balance as it has become too high. We don't want you to, I've a call from the comptroller, and so revised budget projections using $277,739.84 available fund balance. Already hearing nothing. Highway DA fund. DA 5142200 snowplow removal equipment includes the Case 821, 2024 10-wheeler, and salt spreader.
This is the typical every 2 years we buy a different truck deal?
Yes, yeah. We committed to this, to hold the price in a resolution, which I have here.
That's, I remember that doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
When do you get your new toy?
Probably not until 2025, if we're lucky. We still haven't received one. We in good faith, agreed to for 2022. Actually, it was 2021 when we placed the orders. Hopefully, it'll be the end of this year. Hopefully.
So you use this money to pay for the 2022 one?
No, that money's already encumbered and waiting. It's set aside.
Okay. Is that part of one of these fund balances that we see that looks high, or is that in a different money?
Now, I think it's under different money.
I'm curious as to where that money is. I'm
It's
just,
split a third, a third, and a third, and I believe they probably pulled it out from snow, water, and DB.
well, if it's set aside, I'm trying to understand how it's set aside, so I
Well,
can,
it's been encumbered, right?
Mhm.
okay, it's encumbered.
It's encumbered.
Yeah.
So when I look at these lines, some of this is encumbered money, but that doesn't count towards the fund balance monies when it's encumbered, right?
It's part of the fund balance.
It is factored in.
It's factored in. Where you would see it is when you get those detail of expenditure reports, you'll see one of those lines is money that's been encumbered.
Okay,
Yeah, and on that sheet we just printed out for you, that Excel sheet, the encumbrances are listed under appropriated fund balance, because that, it's been
Okay.
appropriated at that point.
So that is taken into account, if that's factored into this math.
Mhm. Yeah,
I think is that the answer you're looking for, Joe?
I'm seeing appropriated fund balance, oh, okay, so 68 and 36, that's about 100,000, which is how much your truck is?
No,
No.
no, it's
Not even close.
95,464 split over 3 different accounts.
Right, I'm just saying a couple of different appropriated fund balances. So there's a 95,000 under DA, and there's another 68 under DB, so it's mixed into those, is what I'm seeing, hearing?
yeah, I don't have, hang on. let me
Just,
see what the
that's
encumbered-
Yeah.
approximately
But
what it
it's
is.
all in there, yeah. If it was
Okay.
encumbered, it's all in there.
Okay, thank you.
So I think what you're asking is that if that number at the bottom where we say what the real number is at the bottom, let's just go with a fine one here, highway DA.
Right,
And you see where the minimum is 59,000 short. That already includes the 95,46797 into that calculation.
Right.
mhm,
So you don't have to come up with another 95,46797 on top of that. That's already been earmarked.
Right.
So if you look at the fund balance, when you get the supervisor's report, to their point, you have to go into the individual account to make sure to pull that out, because you'll get a false reading if that's all you go by is the supervisor's report, because you'll say amount of cash. But that's what, so far so good? So you have to go down into the A fund where it says the encumbered and pull that amount out of and that's why this number is, I think, for lack of a better term, the hard number.
I understand, but at some point, they're gonna ask Mikey to pay for the truck, and there needs to be enough money sitting there for him to be able to pay for the truck.
Yeah,
Which
there
is why we encumber it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
exactly why we
but
encumber
when we
it.
do all of those things, we're 60,000 short. And so,
There is a plan moving forward,
I understand, I'm just saying.
and it'll gel as we keep moving forward here. If everybody makes reference to the yellow highlighted area, we should be okay. Now that we know exactly where the money is going, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Having said that, where are we now in our adventures? Number 2, in the Highway DA Fund, DA 9060800 employees moving to family plans. Number 3, increase tax levy by 29,879.80 from 1,493,992.04 to 1,523,871.84. So the levy went up 29,879. DA 1120, 125,000 represents 7% of the sales tax revenue projections. That is reallocating that sales tax into the DA fund, and it will it incrementally go in
It-
as each month of sales tax gets?
Yeah, just like it does now.
It'll be split
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Instead of splitting it between just the B and the DB funds, we're just gonna split it A, B, DA, and DB.
In the old days, when we got the tranche of money, 29 went right to the B fund and 7 went right to the DB fund. Now we have those 4 allocations. Every month, you're gonna have a revenue stream
have-
go into the A and the DA.
Yes.
Okay. Number 5, DA 5031, 150,000 represents the transfer of ARPA funds to cover a portion of salt costs. And hopefully, part of that's covered, that amount not being spent for salt will fall back into increasing your fund balance at the end of the year, right?
Well, right, and we ordered 500 less ton of salt, so there's another $26,000 not spent in 2024
Excellent.
So far.
so far. We should be,
So, on this sheet, it says use of reserves, it's not really,
Yeah, I
It's
think
ARPA,
I
okay.
I just clicked, I went, you know what? I think I did a copy and paste and I didn't change
okay.
that.
So it's really ARPA fund, okay.
Yes.
Correct.
All right.
Number 6, DA 0511, use of reserves to purchase equipment totaling $63,160. These funds will need to be replaced over the next couple of budget cycles. The funds will, not the equipment.
Okay. All right.
Number 7, this will result in a tentative budget proposed adding $96,607.90 back to this fund balance of DA. So far, so good?
So really what we're doing is we're moving most of the money from the reserve to boost up the fund balance for the moment is what's happening there.
Which reserve is this you're talking about?
DA. You're moving it from the
63,000.
equipment reserve into the fund balance.
Part of it.
Which I understand, you know, is needed for this year to keep going, and then we're gonna like build it back up. I get that.
Highway DB fund. DB 5110 200 street maintenance equipment includes the Case 821, the F550 box. Is that for the Beast? No, that's a
No, that's the truck and box, the lemon that we keep
Yes,
working on,
gotcha.
right?
The tractor, the Great All, 2024 10-wheeler, and a box for a truck 14. Now keep in mind, there is the one called the Beast, and that is a 93?
91.
91. This is the one that simply does not want to leave the yard and always wants to do stuff. This is the one that we use all the big rip wrap because it punches holes in the box. That's okay. We use one truck to haul the big rip wrap around in. And this one is the one that starts up every time and keeps chugging.
And yeah, the box is 20 years old, the second box we put. It served a ton of well.
This is not buying equipment, this is just maintaining equipment that we own. This line here.
No, I mean, the loader is buying, the F550 is buying, the tractor is buying, the Great All is maintaining, the 10-wheeler box is maintaining.
It may sound like we're getting a lot for that little, but keep in mind that there are other funds this comes out of also.
And there's trade-in factors here, in a lot of this, to help not drop the price.
Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So we're trading in a F550, you know,
Oh, okay.
to purchase this 550 to drop the price down. The case loader, the payments dropping on that per year compared to what we have currently. Yeah, it's all equipment
Okay.
minus the Great All.
So this pricing takes into account a trade-in value then too?
Yeah.
Okay.
That should be under, what, the revenue stream for scrap?
No, it's straight up trading. So when we get the bill, it's already figured in.
So it's reducing this number?
It's reducing
It's a
the
trade-in, gotcha, just deal with the car, gotcha, or truck, gotcha, okay. I understand. You're not gonna sell it, you're just gonna trade it in and get the difference, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Two, DB 5112.200R. If the vac truck grant is awarded, the town share will be paid partially out of the DB equipment reserve. Is that for the catch basins?
Yes, this is, working with Angel, I think this is the fourth time we've gone after the WQIP grant. Jen and myself and Angel worked on this grant, it's challenging. Fingers crossed, we got support from Village of Cuba Heights, Tompkins County, but ultimately you need a plan for your catch basins and then clean out of them.
And how many do you have? 90?
Well, no, we have more than that. I mean, basically, it's like 125 a year we're gonna have to clean out, because there's a 5-year plan.
Those are the end of the storm drains, right? That's where the water has to eventually go to,
Yes.
and it collects.
The DEC, that is their biggest push, is that you clean that contaminated and you track it. So there'll be a little more money spent possibly on software. You have to track it, and then you have to turn the plan in and all the information in DEC. Depth of structure, how much material's in there. But yeah, it's a good thing for the environment.
And part of that's coming out of water, because when you have a water break, it's nice to be able to get a clean look at
The
stuff.
majority of this is going to be for the catch basins. For the DEC conversation, those two women were very, very helpful in just telling me that much.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. DB 2089, we just talked about grants received, represents grant funds that will be received if awarded for back truck. I think this is a 25%, isn't it? 2575?
Yeah, the grants, unfortunately, the grant went down. Remember when CJ was here, it was up pretty good. The grant, full grant could be awarded, I think it's $325,000. The cost of this equipment is over $500,000. The town's portion would be $195,000. So, I'm very hopeful we get the grant, because this piece is going to be very useful.
As a side note, do we need to adjust that capital plan? Or are the numbers that are on there going to need to change?
No, I'll have to double check.
Okay.
I don't remember what we figured the grant at, so
I can't
I'll
remember
double
either.
check.
Okay,
I'll let you know.
that's okay, when you get a chance. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
go off on a
That's great.
tangent.
Feel free, that's what this is for. DB 3501, this is the CHIPS money that you get reimbursed for the paving. So if you do $440,000 worth of paving, you get $440,000 of money coming back, as long as it's qualified for that. Right?
Yes.
So is that how that's estimated? It's just whatever we spend is what we're going to get back?
It's estimated by New York State on miles, right, how much money we're gonna get. And I usually get a letter from the state stating how much we're gonna get. So I figured conservatively that it's gonna be around $440,000 next year.
Okay.
So we'll see. Hopefully they'll increase it, right? So,
If it does, we're off to races, right?
exactly.
But you're still gonna have to pay for it, but it's coming out of DB,
Correct.
which is healthy.
So you're saying it's basically a one-for-one offset? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
they're gonna give you X amount per mile of road. We try to spend within that,
Okay.
so we get reimbursed to the state at the end. And I'm hoping to get everything turned into the state here this month.
Okay.
Or almost in October, right? Then being reimbursed this year. We found that it works a lot better for our accounting. Some years, depending on when we can get the paving done, it pushes it, but it's
Yeah.
very, very helpful for this office if I can get everything into the state and we receive the check, the same year work's done.
Mhm.
So, it's my goal.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, number 5, summation. This is where the fund balance used, DB is $310,124.78. This fund balance is currently very high to our adopted policy. I think we used more of that last year, didn't we? To balance the budget? I think I asked that question before.
Out of the DB fund?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
a little bit more, I think it was.
yeah. Except this is not going back into the DV, this is going in, this is being relocated, reallocated, I guess. Okay. Or not, no, this is going in the DV fund, directly, to balance it,
I'm sorry.
We're taking from the
Taking.
fund balance
directly,
in the DV fund
to balance it.
to balance budget.
Mhm.
Okay. Lake Watch lighting districts. So SL3 1026, taxes will increase from 7,000 to 16,500 for those in the district. That includes the 4,500 loan from the A fund, must be repaid, and expenses have increased.
Two questions on this. One, are we gonna, is that fund gonna have to borrow this year as well?
Mhm.
So that's covering enough to,
You'll see
Pay
a
for
budget
this
bond
year?
in October.
Yeah,
so we're gonna have to do something in October to cover that. Now, where am I going to see the money going into the A fund in this budget?
Going into the A fund?
Yes. If this money is coming out of this Lake Watch and going into the A fund, where do I see it here?
To repay the
Yeah,
fund?
Yeah,
It's on the trial balance, is a owed from other funds account. You would see the cash increase when it came in.
no, I'm just trying to figure out which line, where would I see it as an income coming back into A, because if it's coming out of Lake Watch, it has to go into A.
But it's not revenues. This is the repayment of the loan. so
It's just
balance sheet.
repayment of a loan, yeah.
right.
So you'll see that owed from other funds, in the A fund, you'll see owed from other funds as 4,500 or whatever, and
Mhm.
then when we repay it, that'll say zero.
Okay,
We're gonna have to do that again
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that again,
for next.
probably
year.
about the same amount,
Yeah,
so
maybe a little less, we'll see.
will this cover both of those so that at the end of 2024, we're evened up? Or are we gonna have to jigger it again in 2024 to like finalize it?
I think we're gonna have to,
But yeah, this covers just
yeah,
the loan that
Yeah.
happened, what was it, last year?
Yeah,
It covers just that
we're
loan.
gonna have to adjust again for
2025, you should be,
Right.
you should be
Yeah.
flush, but that, you also
Exactly.
adjusted the amount of money going in.
Yeah, I
So-
understand that, I
Oh,
see
no.
that we're doing that, yeah.
So by 2025, there should be enough money in that account, so you wouldn't have to borrow. It's a 2-year cycle.
yeah,
The one you have to pay, you already borrowed, and then for next year, because we haven't adjusted the rates that much to compensate, that'll again create a loan, and that loan will be paid back. And then 2025, there'll be enough in there to, because the rate will be higher, to
Right.
take care of that
right.
moving forward, barring some huge unforeseen thing that's gonna happen.
Yeah, definitely a fun to watch carefully.
Now, aren't these loans required to pay interest from one fund to the other?
Yeah, you can, but you pay interest,
So it's not gonna be 4,500, it's gonna be 4,500 and some change.
probably, yeah. I'll have to look, I'm gonna look at that.
I think we're required to pay something, and it's, you know.
Yeah, and it depends on the accounts, I think. I'll look into it for sure.
Yeah,
It'll-
I
it'll
don't
be
remember, I just
very
vaguely
minimal
remember.
amount.
Yeah,
Our-
our interest is pretty low.
Yeah.
It'll be very,
It'll
I
probably be
know.
much.
dollars.
yeah.
I just wanna do it right, I'm not worried
Oh,
about.
yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying that it will be, like to Jed's point, it'll be dollars,
Yeah,
you know, whatever, $2.16 or
So,
something.
exactly, I just wanna be able to show the comptroller, yes, we charged interest.
Yeah, of
but
course,
Paid
of
for the other
course.
fund extra
Yeah.
money because of the use of the money and all that.
Mhm.
and I also had a question, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I read that anytime there's an
Yeah.
interfund loan, it has to be paid back within the same year.
That's right.
There's just not enough money to
But
do
there's not,
it.
there's any money there to pay it. So with that, we've asked the comptroller, and I asked about this last year when we did it. Yes, you should be paying it back in the same year. However, they understand that sometimes that can't be done, hence you had to use the loan in the first place, especially if it's toward the end of the year,
Okay.
right? You borrowed it in October, it's hard to pay it back in
Back by
December.
December, yeah.
We haven't had, we fund this with taxes. We can't do anything about taxes at that time. And if they see that you have a plan in place to make this better so it doesn't happen again, which is what we're doing, and it's a 2-year plan, they'll be, they will understand that.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
thank you. I just want to make sure we were covered on that one.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
been in my experience that when you see a situation and you recognize that situation and you take an action plan to address that situation, like budget mod surprises,
Mhm.
and now that has been rectified. That will be tracked closely in the supervisor's office, and that's something that Mikey comes on a regular basis, almost to the point that his mail's coming there, and so is Pat. And that's fine, because they're looking for information on how to do this, and they want to track it. So they're all on point now as far as how this is gonna go. As we said before, the yellow line indicated if something goes up, something's gotta come down. You got to stay within your budget. By law, we give them the money to work within their budget. If something is outside that budget, asking for forgiveness is not an option.
Right.
Rate increase. Warren Road Sewer District, number one. Rate increase from $73.75 to $88.50 to cover costs incurred. Mrs. Munson helped me out here, but I think also that the sewer rates went up a bit, did they not? From
Village of Cuba Heights is proposed to go up 16%. So that's where the majority of this is in here.
was passed on to
The
us.
people in that district that have sewer.
And that is that per quarter?
That's per quarter.
Why is it different for Cherry Road and Warren?
Cherry Road is a much smaller district, so less people are paying in.
Okay,
And with the income and expenses that we plugged in with these new numbers, in the Cherry Road, that still only leaves us with like $800 as a surplus amount, so we had to raise it. And we also found out, doing this exercise, we didn't realize before that Mikey is taking a whole bunch of our revenue that we didn't know he was taking, so, for his expenses. We didn't know his expenses were coming out of our revenue, so,
I didn't realize hers were, I mean,
yeah.
I didn't realize we need to pay Cuba Heights and the village, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Also transmission fees.
So we all got together and learned a lot and said, oh, we need to really, there's not enough to cover. Jesse and I were covering what we knew we needed to cover, and then when we found out, oh, Mike's putting stuff on those lines, expense lines too.
Operate maintenance and there's a
I,
cost.
yeah, I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys don't come for free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So-
to the mayor of Cuba Heights' credit, she has been saying there's gonna be a bump for a long time.
Well, she's been bumping it a lot for a
Right.
few years now. She's not afraid to bump, let me just tell you.
Well, there are situations where they have expenses also, and as we continue for her to be a good friend of town Lansing, we hopefully will continue to use the meters, have confidence in the meters, and not have these EUs, and consequently, you might be able to increase the number of units. That also is a long, if that happens, it'll be another 8-year overnight success, or 10-year overnight success, to do that. Before they look to increase their capacity by adding on, I don't know if they can add on another half a plant.
And if it looks like this won't be enough revenue to cover the expenses as we're going along, there's nothing that says we can't do a rate increase partway through the year. So we could do
You
that
can
if we
do
need
that.
to.
You can do that for the sewer districts, but not for the lighting districts, is that the tax?
I don't have anything to do with the lighting districts, so I don't know.
Yeah, because they're a tax.
That's
it's
a tax.
imposed.
That's a tax,
Th-
whereas
These
this year we
are
got the
quarterly
monthly
user
fees. Okay,
fees.
yep, I understand.
So I think we covered Cherry Road, right?
Yep.
I'll say it publicly, rate increase from $73.75 per quarter to $95.25 per quarter. Probably most people forget that the water rate decreased from 10,000 down to 5,000 a few years ago, saving people who were doing 5,000 less, $22 a quarter. But most people don't look at that number, they look at the increase, so anyways. Things go down, they don't notice it, things go up, they notice it. Okay, water district. SW 8340.200, remaining portion on back truck to be paid here if grant is received, fund balance used, $80,912. Low one. Oh, I'm sorry, there's no.
I really like this highlights that you did this year, that's really
Yes,
nice.
would you like to read that again, or we okay?
I think we're fine.
I think you're gonna pin it to your door.
Yes, or on the back of my truck or something. I mean, this will work. I think overall, it was an unpleasant surprise where we were going. But I think we made some adjustments. And quite frankly, using a minimum amount, what I think of reallocating the sales tax is going to basically put everybody on notice that you're gonna have to really tighten up and be aware. And it's not a criticism towards anybody, but now we have the wherewithal to make sure people are aware. And like I said, if something goes up, something's gotta go down. So, next step.
Well, I got a couple of questions here. Talking with the planning board Monday, they're concerned about how much money is in for training, because it's fairly expensive to send everybody up to Lake George for the conference, even though that's hugely positive for the members that go. And so I'm not sure how much have we put in, and how did we figure that number?
Actually,
That's a John Zeppo question.
John,
Well, I mean, we can
And we
tell.
John
went-
itemized. I
You
feel like
did.
you might be able to answer that.
If you can, I will, because I have the same information. Go ahead.
I should have him give you guys copies of this too. He put in there, part of the 23,150, which is in line 8020.400.
Thank you.
He has in there $300 training per member, $300 per hotel per member, and $100 for mileage times 9 members. So that comes to like $7,700 as part of the 23,000 that he has on that line item. And he did the same for ZBA
Yep.
on,
So he's planning for enough for everybody to go to the conference. Some people won't, but they'll use that money to do online classes and stuff like that.
right.
What he did is he broke the contractual down, which is the next step for a lot of people, is to break down those contractual lines.
Okay. And then the next question I have is about what we talked about in terms of hiring a consultant to do zoning, and do we have money that we can work on that? Because we're looking at somewhere around 75 to 100,000, probably over 2 to 3 years. I can't imagine them doing it in 1 year. And is there enough money to pull out of the fund balance and put it into a line to start that process? Because I think we really need to move there, or we're never going to catch up with our zoning changes.
All right.
There's $30,000 in consultant line right now.
That's what he usually puts in to be able to do some of the stuff that gets done. I think we need to be putting like 40 or 50 into that on top of that. And since our
So,
B fund is fairly healthy, can we pull some from this overage of fund balance to give us some money to do that with?
okay, so the answer is probably yes, at least from one person's perspective. So let me just take a step back here. When we had this discussion with John, it was a consultant or a planner. So in his line for planning, okay, he has 77,662 in there already. Okay, that's in his budget for next year. You know, are you saying we should get both? I would say, let's see what's out there. And what I would do is probably, I mean, you know, consultants are expensive per hour, but they may not be as expensive because there's no benefits, as we all know. And they're also job specific. So let's just do a little quick segue here. And I'll let you talk about what we talked about.
Okay, so I did contact a local recruiter. They had, in fact, they have a couple candidates. They called me today and said they have a couple candidates. And we got an email with a candidate today too that is interested. So there's some interest there. But if we ask this recruiter to help us, this is a person that we decide to hire, it would be, we would pay 18% of $77,000 basically would be their fee. If it was hired this year, it's in the budget. It wouldn't be needing a budget mod because we haven't used that, that budget line. So we'll just, use that, to do that. But it wasn't clear at the last meeting whether it's okay for Ed to sign this agreement to let this recruiting firm, because they're not gonna give me the candidates' names without a signed contract. The contract doesn't make us fiscally responsible until, like, there's no fee to have them look, right? They don't charge to look. They only charge when you hire somebody, and at that time,
They charge upon hiring or after the 30 or 90-day period?
they have a 90-day guarantee. You pay them right away. As
Okay.
soon as you hire, usually it's due within 5 days of hire, but I've talked to them, letting them know we're government, and they'll be okay with us paying,
On the
what
usual,
we can pay in our usual
third
method.
Thursday of the
Yeah.
month. or something.
They'll work with that.
So it's a little over 14,000,
but-
it's about 14,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about $14,000, yep. And there's a 90-day guarantee on this person too, so that if they don't work out, they will replace them for free. Anyway, bottom line is this though. At the last meeting, we talked about this, but it was never clear, and Deb listened to
few
it several
times.
times, that we didn't actually get a yes to go ahead and look at, and move forward with that. So I don't know, I can bring it up in October, I guess, and.
I agree. I think we all want to think about things, and what I'm thinking about is we should do both. Because I'm looking at what's happened over the course of the last 5 years, and we've gotten one big district rezoned, and we're now due to start our comprehensive planning process again, because we're supposed to start it every 5 years. It's been 5 years since we completed it. But we haven't really done the big chunk that we need to do, I think, before we can start that process. And I don't see at this rate, let's say we hire somebody in October. Let's say that, by January, they're gonna start to get up to speed. Over the course of next year, we'll probably get one district done, and then there's like 6 more to do. And we're gonna be at 2030 before we finish this huge revision that we need to do, that everybody agrees it needs to catch up with current zoning ideas and stuff. And hiring a consultant will help us get over that hump that we're not able to do in-house effectively. And, no matter who we hire, they're not going to be able to move at the rate that a consultant will, because they'll have one project, they'll have the knowledge to come in and say, well, this is what other towns are doing, and here's how we suggest you do this. And I think they'll help us get caught up.
Anybody else can talk, and I'll talk after.
Made sense to me what he was saying, but we're open to another opinion.
Well, a couple of different things. You have both in the budget.
Mhm.
There's a $30,000 consulting in there already, right? If you look in here,
Yep.
and the nice thing about these 5-year, we talk about the 5-year plan, right? This is a 5-year sheet here, is that when you look under, I just lost it, I'll find it again.
What page are we on again?
Look at page 6.
Thank you.
And you look at page 6, and, okay, you have Director of Planning, then you have Planner, okay? And this is going to be B 8020-101.
Sorry, I'm slow on this because it's small type and my
It's
eyes
all
are
right.
old.
I'm pausing in between, Joe, so I'm
Yeah,
not
I'm
going
trying
to leave you.
to find where you are, okay.
Look under zoning total is the subtitle right there. It'd be B 8020, about a third of the way down.
Mhm.
Planning Director, okay, that would be John. Okay, John's at 10, this is the tentative budget, he's at 104,202. And then you look at the line below that, Planner, okay, that we did, then the second one, that's 77662. Now you go a little bit farther down under Planning Contractual, which is 8020-400. And you see, stop, that's not the right one. Excuse me, B 8020-420, a little bit over halfway down. planning consultant, that's at 30,000, okay? You see, when you read these things, how much has actually been spent this year. Now, part of it, I think, is Brian. Brian was under the consultant, he was I could be wrong, but I believe that's where he was. But you look at the planner, no, that's where Brian is, I'm sorry, up there. So anyways, there is money in the budget for the next year, okay, 30,000 for the consultant. I would, well, first of all, that's assuming there's people out there for a consultant. We have a commitment, if we go this route, for the musical headhunters, we use other things, and that's fine. That would find people that are full-time, right?
Yeah,
And-
there's, exactly, that would be a direct hire, full-time. There is another company that I haven't contacted yet, that's at least one other one, and I'll look out for more, up in Syracuse, that we might be able to find a consultant as well. And I can certainly look at both, and you know, you guys can make a decision on what you want, but we can look at the cost of both. I don't know what the cost would be for a consultant.
Well, I'm saying we hire a planner if we can. I mean, obviously, they're gonna give us suggestions and we'll see if they work out. But we can hire these companies that will just come in and they will work over our zoning for us. And it's not a consultant, as it were, it's a consulting company, and this is the kind of thing they do. And part of why they're gonna be able to do it cost effectively and time effectively is they do these kind of zoning changes all the time, so the final product is something they're very used to. And I would bring them in, because we need to rework our zoning both in format and to catch up with a lot of the zoning stuff that New York State's suggesting, that other communities are doing, just to kind of get ourselves in the right shape. And I think bringing one of these companies in will help us get our zoning back into shape, because we haven't done a comprehensive zoning change in 30 years. We've done minor changes here and there. We've got a lot packed into our comprehensive plan. We've got a backlog of stuff that the planning board has said is not working for them. We've got a Board of Zoning Appeals that's been dealing with problems resulting from our zoning not being up to date, so people are constantly having to come and say, I want to change this and this. That all comes together with a public process, but it comes in at a cost, but I think the cost is offset by all the stuff we have to do in terms of dealing with a zoning code that's dated and needs to be updated. It will be less work for the planning staff. It will make it easier for people who want to come in to say, your zoning allows me to do the kinds of things that we're doing in the 21st century. And so I think it's really important that we get this caught up, and the only way we're going to get it caught up is to hire a consultant company at about $100,000 to come in and redo it. And it's going to take them a couple of years, but I can't see how we're going to do that in-house, even if we hire this planner, because the planner is going to have a table full of stuff to do, hitting the floor. I think we need to get that step, and I think that means adding $50,000 for 2024. And since we have it in the fund balance to be able to move it over, that will allow us to start moving forward and looking. It doesn't commit us to anybody, but it gives us the ability to start looking and figuring out, can someone do us, what are the parameters, and what are the costs?
And basically, it would be somebody that's dedicated
That's
to
all-
just this
yeah.
project, that
Yeah.
they're not distracted with,
Well, these are good assumptions, but, I mean, I also would like to have Johnson put on this, to say how he wants to work his department, and what the priorities are on this. What would a second planner do? You know, and what would a consultant do? And where you get the best bang for your buck. Now, please keep in mind also that some of this money may not be spent this year, but also, this is the lifeline for the budget for the next couple of years. Keep in mind, you used 300 and some thousand to balance the DV this year, amongst others, and there may have to be some things postponed overall until you get the, unless you want to just raise taxes. But then you can't raise taxes, then you take the pressure off the DV fund. But do you want to raise taxes another $30, $40, you know, we're going to raise them if in a perfect world, if this were done today, and I'm saying it will be, I don't expect it to, but if this were passed the way it is now, it's 17 cents more on top of the 20 cents before that, on top of the 57 to 60 cents waiting for them when the highway department is built. Somebody's saying that we're using the money now to get our fund balance up. There's ways that we can do reasonable, but also find out what's out there. And maybe you don't get, maybe there isn't a planner and a consultant, maybe you got one or the other. You're gonna make progress. And the progress, you're not gonna do this overnight. The progress is happening. The conversation's already there. This hasn't been poo-pooed and put on the shelf for another 10 years. It's going to come, but it may have to come at a slower pace than what we want. We've had this discussion before. We should be working on the comprehensive plan again.
I agree, but I think we can get ourselves in a better position at this point. I've talked with John, and John's very interested in pursuing this, because he agrees, we're not going to move the zoning up to the level that we need it to be in a reasonable time frame in-house. And that's the problem, even with the planner, because if we hire a planner, they're going to be working with this consultant to feed them all the information they need from our community so that we can get this done. But the only way we're going to get this done is through an outside. And I'm just asking to take some money out of the fund balance and put it in a consulting line so that we can start the process of looking into this and figure out, can we do it? What's it going to cost? What can we get out of it? Is it going to bring us to the point that we feel we need to?
Well, keep in mind, we had a consultant before, we had one full-time planner, we probably went to 2 full-time planners, and that budget was 60 grand.
Mhm.
You know, let's just, like I said, we may want to sleep up, we can talk about this some more. I'd like to see what Johnson put on this also, is, as far as raising this stuff. Once again, every fund, including the B and DP, hopefully will be protected, because that was the safety net this year.
Mhm.
And it maybe has to be done incrementally to do this. And we also have to keep in mind that when people have special interests, they don't need to take precedent over what the priorities are. What are your priorities here from the planning department, and what does the town board, the future town board, want to direct the planner to do in that case, and get his input on what's out there? You know, the other thing is that, I don't know if you want to authorize us to move forward with this firm to look for an applicant tonight. I thought out of courtesy with Louise who would discuss it, and it's money that will be spent, so I think it should be board approved, at least to have that looking forward and see what's out there. And it's a process, okay? And we'll keep looking and see what's out there, and when we get the right fit, we will know on that and see where it goes. And at the same time, you can look for a consultant.
Yeah.
Maybe you find a consultant that specializes in zoning and they hit the floor running because they've done it before. That is what the art of consulting is you're already the expert, right? It's like you go to a specialist at a medical center. They don't have the book on your chest looking at what they should do. They know what they do because that's what they do, right? I would expect if we have to pay them X amount of dollars, they already know what they're doing. I'm open-minded to these things, but let's see what's out there first. In the meantime, does the board want to authorize me to sign this contract? Do you want to look at the contract first and get back to me at the next board meeting? It's on, you guys tell me what you want to do.
I would like to see the contract. I feel more comfortable that way, just to see what they're offering and what they're guaranteeing.
Yep.
I'm sure it's within range.
It's very standard, but I'll send it. It's full legal language, but you're absolutely, I read through it, you up and read through it. I've contracted with them before. I've worked with them for they've been open for 10 years, I've worked with them for 10 years, so.
And that way we'll have it, already set up in the agenda and all that, so that we're just approving a
Yep,
pre-form
that.
thing.
yep,
At the next board meeting.
At the next board meeting, yeah.
good.
I think you also have John's eye work on it also.
John,
So-
I already talked to John about it, and he's all good with it,
Okay.
yeah, so.
So you said you've worked with them for a while, and they're pretty good
Yeah.
about giving you, I know
They're-
some will send you just anybody, but they're
Yeah,
pretty good about sending.
They are, they're very good. They
Okay.
can, and here's the thing, when you're working with a recruiter, right, is that they can only send you what you've asked for. So if
Right.
you're not very specific with what you need, then you might not get the red tail. The more you kind of manage what they're looking for, and, they send you candidates or resumes to review first, and you can look at it. If it's not right, you can say, I realize I need to tell you we are looking for this or that. or we don't need something. One of the things they will do before they confirm with candidates too, is we will have a phone or a Zoom meeting with John
Good.
and the recruiters that are gonna work on it to really, they'll ask a lot of good questions about what he's looking for.
That's good. That's a
Yeah.
good thing to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they, you know, they're good, they will keep looking until they find somebody, but I will tell you that they said right off the bat, this is a tough hire, because there's not a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people looking.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people looking, not a lot
No,
of
no, a
people.
lot of people
that fit
looking for
this.
planners.
Pardon?
There's a lot of places looking for planners.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of places looking, and there's not a lot of people out there on the market.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
right.
Mary Ellen, do they also recruit consultants?
They don't. I talked to them a little bit about that. They don't, for this kind of position, they don't have the, you know, the bandwidth to do that. But JAS recruitment up in Syracuse probably does.
Well, the
Because they do
planning-
engineers and accountants or architects and things like that.
I'm sure the Planning Federation could give us a whole lot of references too.
Yeah, I think
This is-
John already tried that resource, but I'll ask him again.
Mhm.
The other question I would ask is that this other recruiting agency that does consultants, perhaps they can give us a range of what a consultant would be if you went on to put it in your budget.
Yeah, and sometimes that can depend on us, what we're looking for and what skill level we need to do the work, right? If you need somebody that is, maybe entry level, because it's very basic work, just get it done, that's gonna be one fee. And you need somebody that's more expert, has a lot more experience, gonna cost a lot more.
And also work with John to see, along with the board, the suggestion, what the priorities are, right? What are you really looking for in that individual? What are their strengths,
Mhm.
right? We want this person, I mean, if this is an entry-level position, are they gonna have as much experience going forward for zoning, or this is gonna be their first trial? And like I said, if you're gonna be paying a hefty salary, especially for a consultant, that's something that their experience should make them cost effective and hit the floor running. I mean, zoning is zoning wherever you go. It's just a matter of how you wanna, what the procedure is, what the process is. When I say zoning, I mean the process, right? Where is that municipality going? Where's the input from the public? Where they wanna go with this? Where are their concerns? What do they wanna encourage? What do they wanna encourage? All those are generic questions that can be applied to every municipality. And I think consultants or whoever have these expertise have this down to a science.
Yeah, they do. And so we can get on to the budget stuff, but just one more comment, because you can sometimes get away with a lower skill level and have them do all the grunt work, and then have our in-house experts do the finishing work, right? Because we're already planning, we already have planners here, so they don't have to spend their time doing the grunt work that somebody else can do.
When we had the last
Good
consultant,
point.
there were two pay grades, or two pay level. One was the actual consultant, and the other one was the associate, who was like $25 less an hour. But they were the ones, like you said, that did all the grunt work, so to speak, and then compiled all the data.
Right.
And from there, then the planning consultant took all that data that was done, and then processed it.
Exactly. So sometimes it's a way to get the work done at a little lower cost to the town. Yeah. So, but things to look at, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, the number I'm getting for a consulting firm to do zoning is what I got from John when we talked about it. He's definitely interested in moving in this direction, because I think he agrees with me. We're not going to be able to catch the town up on a timeline that really the town needs to, especially since we're reformatting our zoning and trying to do it in a totally different way. That's going to take some time, and we got a lot of districts to go through. And if we're going to try to do it in-house, we're going to be here at 2030 still trying to finish them up, and that's too long to ask our residents to be in limbo.
I agree.
I don't think anybody would disagree with those comments. Okay, so now we've gone through.
Could I just ask for clarification for the minutes, since we kind of keep circling around and back? And so there'll be approval at the next meeting for Mary Ellen to go through a recruiter for a planner?
There may be. See what goes.
I mean,
We're gonna-
That's-
We want
that's-
to see it on the agenda.
that's the
yeah.
game plan,
That's the
okay?
game plan.
And also possibly checking with another recruiting company for a consultant.
A
I'm just want to make,
consulting firm is what I'm thinking.
I'm sorry,
A
what?
consulting firm.
Consulting firm, okay.
Usually they put a small team together that works on the project, and, some people have got different areas of expertise, and that's part of what helps pull it together, is you've got someone who, does the, code writing, where someone helps gather the, changes that need to be done, and, things like that.
So there should be a motion or something at the next meeting to
Right.
approve Mary Ellen to do both of those things, to look for.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure about that, okay?
Well, she can certainly look for firms right now. It's a question of approving the one firm.
Yeah, I just can't,
I mean, we've done this
can't sign
before.
anything.
We've done this before when we did it, for instance, asking for consultants when we do the Yellow Barn
Mhm.
negotiations. We have a team of consultants on various aspects. All right, what else do you want to know about the budget, Sean?
I have a question. On A 75-10-100 on the historian, we're putting in for an increase in pay, but I take strong exception to this. First of all, I've talked to Carol Cammon as well as the current county historian, and they say her pay is already way out of line. Most historians in Tompkins County, and possibly even in the state, make anywhere from $500 to maybe $1,500 a year. So we're already
Whatever you folks want
way-
to do. We just took the 4% that
Yeah.
was talked about and put it across the board,
I'm
so.
sorry, which line is this? I'm looking again.
It's A 75-10-100.
75, 10, I'm sorry. 75, 10, 100. Did she ask for this?
No, that's just,
The standard 4% increase.
That's just the
for employees
4%.
in the town.
yeah,
You want
that
to
was,
keep it the same as last year? Do you want to, you recommend?
Well, I don't want to increase it, that's for sure, because we're already about 4 times higher what all other
So you want to keep it the
historians.
same amount?
We can't reduce it, can we?
You can do whatever you want, but how do you
I
explain it to
would,
her?
that would not be a very nice thing to do.
I wouldn't
Ah.
reduce it.
No, I'm just
Would
saying
not be
that,
nice thing to do.
it's one thing you can freeze it for 5, 10 years and let it come to where it's supposed to be,
That's what I.
in your mind.
That's what I would.
I will
That's
say, I think she puts in a lot of
when you-
time and hours.
Pardon me?
Just to, since Fanny's not here, and I don't think she would say boo, but she puts in a lot of time, effort, and hours into this,
Mhm.
and thought. Just saying.
I know, but so do all the other historians and they.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that, I'm not saying that to keep the 4%, I'm just saying I wouldn't reduce her down to $500.
I think reducing sends the wrong message, but I could say keep it at the current level.
Yeah. Again, it's completely up to you, you don't
Yeah,
convince
I
me
just
one
don't
way or
want
the
to see
other,
an
I'm just.
increase in it,
It's
that's
the
all.
same thing we're doing to ourselves. I assume we're not changing board salaries. I didn't actually
No,
look.
we're not.
I know,
That's up to the board.
no, we're asking a historian to do the same thing we're doing, which is stay at the current level.
Right.
As long as you have an ask.
Mhm.
As long as you have what? I'm sorry.
As long as she hasn't asked.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can see Ed's going over the edge. He had to get another chocolate.
Let's see.
Keep in mind, just send out the emails, keep them all flowing. I found out, like I said, my experience in the past is that a lot of time I find this education more than anything else. You'll explain stuff. And we have excellent, in my opinion, we have excellent employees. And, Jen brings a whole different skill set that only enhances Mary Ellen's. I think we're very fortunate to have a great amount of information.
And, okay, I have another question. On line A 1090, which is the interest and penalties on taxes, I was just curious why there was such a dramatic increase from, where am I? Well, from prior years. Well, 23 went up, and I'm just wondering why it went up so much.
Moving to the new bank accounts with the higher interest rates, that's Deb's
that my
account?
line?
Actual,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's your line.
Okay.
That's you. That's all
I'll
I
take
do.
credit for that. Remember I
Wow.
took in like 20,000 in interest last year, and this year?
That's amazing,
They're in the-
fantastic.
And I think,
I expect to do that again.
It's not penalties, it's not
The
penalties
other
we're talking
funds
about,
will
it's
too.
interest on money sitting
The
in account.
20,000 was strictly interest from the bank.
Okay, yeah.
The penalties amount would be, comparable to what's been in the past. It's totally the interest from switching to the bank.
Mhm, that makes sense.
I think that process is in place, Mary Ellen, to start, if you haven't already started.
Yeah, yep.
Mhm.
It's, I don't have the money over there yet, but we, I was trying to get to it.
It's not a
but
criticism.
it's- I know.
It's just information.
We've talked about it several times. I have to basically what we'll do is take for right now, we're gonna take all the savings account money, basically, and move it over there, it's easy enough. Leave, the accounts at Tompkins Trust for a while, and, start using this bank as soon as we can with the payroll and the clearing account and things like that. Hopefully the next abstracts will be coming out of this bank.
Fantastic,
So, yeah,
good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what the hope is that whatever we get over there as an increase will be pleasantly surprised this year, but the goal is to get everything over there so when the tax money comes in January, you're all set, and then it just goes into the new
Yeah.
accounts at a higher rate.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah. There'll be a little time to adjust to all the wires and EFTs and getting, Deb will have to input her information, probably change for where water payments go and all that sort of thing, so, right? Taxes, all that, or no, not taxes, but the water payments and things.
So we'll have two banks for a while as we.
We're gonna
start.
have two banks for a while, yeah.
That makes sense.
But for good reason, that's
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Okay.
You're also gonna keep some of the accounts open, right?
The only ones that, when all is said and done, the only accounts they'll have are the courts. And I don't interact with those at all.
That's their call.
That's their call,
Yep.
so.
Okay.
Next one is A 2544, the dog licenses. Is that because of that enumeration? Will we
Yeah.
also be collecting more fees for that?
Mhm.
That's mine.
Okay.
That's
No,
what
it's all
happened
about
last
you.
time.
Yeah, it's all because of
The
dog
enumeration,
enumeration.
He
okay.
drives around, finds dogs, says you're not licensed, they come in and they get their
You
license.
can't imagine how many dogs.
I can, I saw it 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's crazy. Debbie described this 5 years ago, and it seemed silly, and
Yeah,
there was a ton of people coming in with dog licenses.
yeah,
Wow.
It's exactly how she's describing it 5 years ago happened.
yeah. And every year since then, you can see how every year dog licensing income decreases until we do the enumeration again, and then it skyrockets.
Okay. I was just curious on A3001, on the AIM payment, how is that calculated? I'm just curious. How do we know what the amount is?
I don't know how, it comes from the state. That's, the
So it's
state
just
gives us that number.
It's-
Says
it's
this is
a-
how much you'll get.
Okay, so we've already been notified how much it's going to be, or?
Pardon?
We've already been notified how much it's going to be?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
amount. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty consistent over the
Yeah.
years too. They don't normally put more
Yeah.
funding into that.
Yeah.
Though the state keeps threatening to take it away.
Exactly.
Yes, they do.
Okay, that
Instead, they
was-
took it from the county.
Just a minute. I'm sorry, I have all these notes I'm going through
No, it's okay.
my line here.
I would expect no less from you.
Okay. I was just curious on line B, 8020.433.
Yeah. Which page is that, please?
Well, I changed the way I did.
6, I'm gonna say
Page
page
for
6.
you, sorry.
20, B 802433. Is that what
B
you said?
8020.433.
Right.
Okay,
Got
yep.
4,
3.
2, 3. Last one?
It's the planning, the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
2 questions on that, actually. First of all, why is there a negative in the spent year-to-date?
Because, that was before the money So they got a grant money.
This is the reimbursement for
Right?
the grant.
So at the end of the month, that'll go away, because it's been done. We take the grant money for one of the bills that was paid, and move it over to their fund. So that's why
Okay.
that looks like a negative
I
right
had
now.
a feeling it had to do with grant, but my big question is, they actually, excuse me, submitted a budget for about 20,000.
This is the number that John gave us, so,
That number
That's
came
okay.
in late today.
Yeah, it came in
Oh.
late.
we didn't
And-
get
And
it.
part of that was 15,000 for consultants.
Right, which they may end up getting a grant for again, but in the meantime, we don't know that they will, so.
Mhm. Yeah, if he wants to get that to us, we can change that for sure.
If that's what you want to give them. My whole thing is that if they have money for consulting, do they still go for a grant or not? Or do you give them less? Or do you give them less than the 15,000? Do you give them 10,000 and let them go for a grant? I mean, are they, you know, is human nature saying, well, we got the money, we need to go for a grant or not? I mean, they've been very good in the past. I'm not implying they wouldn't be. But what was the amount last year for consultants? They got some money, didn't they, for consulting? Last year, the CUC?
I think most of it was grant funded.
I mean, how much actually was allocated out of the D fund for consulting, a different line? And what's the increase? I mean, do you have information, Ruth, as far as what they had last year?
I don't.
This might be a John question,
Yeah.
to say what's the amount last year, and if it's a huge jump, oh, why?
Well, what I'm saying here is last year, 2022 was 18,000. This year we budgeted 5,500, but I know they've been spending off of a grant money, but I'm not sure how much got spent this year.
Okay.
But much more than the 5,500 because I've seen the bills go by, and I think we spent like 20, 25 on them somewhere.
There's,
What I
yeah.
recommend is, having talked to John about his whole budget today, is that there are some things in it that might be duplication of services from another line. So I think it's good to have his input first, right? We're still in the tentative stage, so these things will be, to see where he thinks that this is a duplication of services, maybe goes into something else, maybe that's a different number. But I think, like I said, let's see where this conversation goes with John, maybe he can illuminate a little bit with us on that, either through via email or whatever, to see, because there might be some other place where some of those things they want to use for a grant or for a consultant, maybe already been done. Okay. I just need more, I don't know, I want to speak for myself, let's see what more information is
Right,
here.
no, I'm just saying, this was, like you said, it just came in, I just got it yesterday
Yeah.
myself, so, yeah, there's more, we need to look into it further, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of important stuff that they, in my opinion, that they can do and have done that's necessary.
Right.
You know, and we'll see what happens. I mean, you don't want to tap the enthusiasm, but on the other hand, you want to make sure that what you're getting is a value too that's not being spent elsewhere.
Absolutely. Okay. Oh, where am
You
I?
want
A
us
lot
to-
of them got answered in this, so.
Well, good. Do you want us to take like a 5-minute break or so? Do you want to go over and make marks on stuff? We'll be back in 5
No, I
minutes.
think I'm about done, actually. I think we've
Anybody else
answered
have any
most.
other questions? I still got a third of a thing of candy left, so you guys.
I have just one question.
Yes, sir.
Pertains to the email regarding 2 Auburn Road. If the board is comfortable with allocating $10,000 for the asbestos abatement to be done.
I haven't seen the email yet, so you're gonna have to catch me up.
Basically meeting with Guy Crow and Dave Harris the other day after the highway board meeting, we discussed 2 Auburn Road. The process that was done was not thorough enough. So in order to do it right, Dave's got a company we can run through Dave and have it done thoroughly, properly, take the proper samples from where they need to be taken. Once that's done, we have that in our hand, then we can go put the project out to bid, hopefully open the bids in December, and have everything taken care of with the house next year.
These are samples for asbestos.
Yes, has to do it. No 2 ways around it.
So you need money for this, is what you're saying?
Correct.
And that, I heard 10,000?
Up to $10,000, yes.
And where's that gonna come from?
Well, we had, and I talked today, one with,
Let's start, is this A or B?
A,
It would just come on the fund balance.
right. Hopefully it's under that, we get everything back and we can move forward.
Well, I hear we have to do that, we have to deal with that house.
Well, yeah.
We have to-
Do you do it this year or do you do it next year, right?
I think we need to start moving forward, I really do.
Well, right, I mean, this will keep you on the timeline of putting it up to bid, opening bids in December, having it taken down and taken care of
Mhm.
next year.
So is there a contract or somebody saying it's up to 10,000? Is there a hard number
Yeah,
there?
that was Dave's number, you know how conservative he is, he shoots.
I know, but this year is the year of surprises. So if there's some place where it's written in, if it's over 10,000, it's not our responsibility or something. I've had too many surprises this year. I'm not calling anybody any negative names here, but I need something validated that this is up to $10,000.
Just put it in the resolution, $10,000, and you aren't spending over, right?
I guess that's one way to do it.
Right. That's how you do it on the trucks and everything else. If it's over, I come back and ask you for more money. You say no, and then it's on.
Well, if you're halfway through the process and you can't go any further, it's a little bit problematic.
Right. I have faith in Dave's numbers, 100%. If the process was not done right from the beginning of buying the house, right? It just wasn't. So when Dave got his hands on it and said, okay, we want to tear it down, what's the process? The bids were thrown out, you know, the asbestos abatement was no good. So here we sit, with
Okay.
money spent with Dave going through the house. Then he found out that the tests and the samples taken weren't up to where they should be by law. So here we sit.
I wonder if we have to get 3 bids for that also.
Well, I'm sure he'll have to mark with that.
I think that's one of those professional firms that this is, you know, it's like buying lawyers and accountants and
Right.
stuff. You have to go with the people who can do it, not anyone who decides to put in a bid, and it's really limited who can do this kind of thing.
Well, rather than assume things, I'd like to have a verification from council
Yep, I'll just hit both for you on that, and I'll reach out to them. I mean,
and
it's,
send the board emails.
We don't need 3 bids for under 20,000.
if it's,
10, I think we raised you to
It's
10.
fine.
I thought there was something
It's
for
fine.
5.
but then if you get into the demolition would be,
Well, the demolition for sure you would need.
yeah.
Demolition, yes.
But it's $5,000. If you spend over $5,000,
And,
you
and
have to have 3 bids.
Jen was just looking at the account, some of the accounts of the A account. We will get together with you and maybe you can talk to, today, because there might be some room in some of the other accounts to move money without using fund balance. But we want to look at that and talk to Dave first, for
Sure.
sure.
So 5 to 10, you can do 3 verbal quotes.
Right, yep.
So would we have Dave do 3 verbal quotes is what we would end up doing?
I don't know, I'll read, it will be done right.
Yeah.
I guarantee, I put my job in the line, it will be done right.
I believe you.
And
I'm just
whether
looking,
I get the 3 votes, or he gets the 3
Votes.
I know you'll do it the right way. I'm just looking up to see what the right way is.
I will follow the procurement policy, I'm sure he will. and
Don't
then
worry
we'll
about
get
it.
it done.
2028, you'll get it done, maybe not.
I just, if we can agree that we're gonna have a resolution next month, the money, we'll figure out where the money is, I'll tell Dave. I'm
Well,
actually
like-
texting
well,
tonight, let's move forward.
If you can't get 3 quotes, what do we do? So this,
Well, then you're okay. You can move forward if you don't get.
but you make the effort.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
So we have to
exactly.
make the effort first.
Yes,
Okay.
And once we make the effort first and keep us posted on the emails, then we can put it on our agenda and put a resolution and discuss it.
yep, absolutely.
So October, for my clarification, so for October resolution, we're gonna have, or October, we're gonna have a resolution for, to get the asbestos samples. Okay.
Yep. Resolution for, spend up to $10,000
Okay.
for the asbestos abatement for number 2 Auburn Road. As we've had many taxpayers come in here and ask, and people have called me, and yes, I'd love to have this off my plate, it's a terrific to come forward with too.
You're not the only one who's been asked about it.
It's a real eyesore.
Yeah, I had to put boards up and put in locks on, people are, they couldn't afford. Why?
Okay, any other questions? We got 2 minutes before it's 9 o'clock. Who got 9 o'clock on the pool?
I move we adjourn.
Sure about that?
Who would, Ruth, you were the second?
I did, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I didn't think so.
Just get covered.
Are you saying you're opposed, Ed? You can stay. If you're opposed, you could stay.
No, I just have to, I think my leg fell asleep. We accept this.